Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, boasts a rich and complex history. British colonial rule, beginning in the 19th century, left deep scars on Burmese society, exacerbating ethnic divisions and exploiting the country's resources. After gaining independence in 1948, Myanmar struggled to establish a stable democracy. In 1962, a military coup d'état plunged the nation into decades of authoritarian rule. General Ne Win, the coup leader, imposed a socialist system that isolated Myanmar from the rest of the world. The military junta, known as the Tatmadaw, brutally suppressed dissent, silencing any opposition to its rule. Under military rule, Myanmar's economy stagnated and human rights abuses became rampant. The legacy of colonialism and the entrenched power of the military have cast a long shadow over Myanmar, shaping its political landscape and hindering its path to peace and prosperity. The year 2011 marked a turning point in Myanmar's history. After decades of military rule, a series of reforms initiated by the Tatmadaw itself raised hopes for a democratic transition. The release of Aung San Suu Kyi from house arrest signaled a potential shift in the political landscape. The government implemented economic reforms, loosened restrictions on freedom of speech, and held parliamentary by-elections in 2012, which the NLD won by a landslide. However, the military-drafted constitution guaranteed the Tatmadaw a significant role in politics, reserving 25% of parliamentary seats and control over key ministries. The Tatmadaw's continued influence over politics and the economy, coupled with ongoing human rights abuses, cast a shadow over the transition, setting the stage for future conflict. The fragility of Myanmar's transition to democracy was starkly exposed in 2017 with the military's brutal crackdown on the Rohingya Muslim minority in Rakhine State. The Tatmadaw launched a systematic campaign of violence, driving over 700,000 Rohingya to flee to neighboring Bangladesh. The United Nations described the atrocities as a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Aung San Suu Kyi faced international criticism for her defense of the military's actions and her silence on the plight of the Rohingya. In February 2021, the Tatmadaw staged a coup d'état, overturning the results of the 2020 general election. Aung San Suu Kyi and other civilian leaders were arrested, and the military imposed a state of emergency. The coup sparked widespread protests and a nationwide civil disobedience movement met with brutal force by the junta. The Tatmadaw's seizure of power plunged Myanmar into a deep political and humanitarian crisis, unraveling years of progress toward democracy. The ongoing conflict in Myanmar has had a devastating impact on the country and its people. The Tatmadaw's brutal crackdown on dissent has resulted in a widespread humanitarian crisis. Thousands of civilians have been killed and many more have been injured or arbitrarily detained. The violence has triggered a mass displacement crisis, with over 1.5 million people internally displaced within Myanmar. These internally displaced persons often lack access to basic necessities such as food, water, shelter, and healthcare. The economy has been severely impacted by the coup and the ensuing instability. The World Bank estimates that Myanmar's economy contracted by 18% in 2021. The combination of conflict, displacement, and economic collapse has created a dire humanitarian situation, leaving millions of people in desperate need of assistance. In the face of the Tatmadaw's brutality, the people of Myanmar have demonstrated remarkable resilience and courage. A nationwide civil disobedience movement emerged in the wake of the coup, with citizens from all walks of life engaging in acts of defiance. The CDM has significantly disrupted the junta's ability to govern, but it has also come at a high cost, with many CDM participants facing arrest, torture, and even death. In addition to the CDM, armed resistance against the junta has grown significantly. Ethnic armed organizations have joined forces with newly formed People's Defense Forces, composed of civilians who have taken up arms. The resilience and determination of the Myanmar people in the face of oppression offer a glimmer of hope for a future free from military rule. The international community has condemned the coup in Myanmar and called for a return to democracy. However, concrete actions have been limited. The United Nations Security Council has been divided, with China and Russia blocking attempts at imposing tougher sanctions. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations has taken a more proactive approach, but its efforts have yielded little progress. The international community faces significant challenges in addressing the crisis in Myanmar. Increased diplomatic pressure, targeted sanctions against the junta leadership, and support for the resistance movement are essential steps toward ending the violence and creating conditions for a sustainable peace in Myanmar.